All right, so we'll be waiting for a few minutes that we can welcome the attendees and start the webinar. So we'll wait 2 minutes before starting.
Okay.
Hello.
Yes, here.
There's more questions. So I'm doing a bit of a Q&A, but there might be many questions that I don't know about the software, for example, or perhaps more detailed about licenses and stuff. So I'll just transfer them to you, or how should we work on that?
Yeah, River is. I mean, we will all be able to manage the Q&A. Perhaps me a bit less. But yeah, just try to manage as many as you can. But of course, if you don't know an answer, you can always ask to wait. It can also be answered eventually after the webinar.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's all right. So I invited a few of my office mates.
Yes.
I hope they have received the link.
Phoebe, I'm checking now the attending participants.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that we can see the anonymous participants, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So we might have some people already on board. So welcome to them. It's 2 minutes after 2. So I propose we can wait 1 extra minute before we start. All right, I think we are going to start. Let me close the door. All right, welcome everyone to this webinar dedicated on the MAMCA software. So the objective of today will be to give you a snapshot of what the MAMCA methodology is and what is the software, and we want to make it as practical as possible. So we will guide you also through the software with small workshops that we will organize after a few presentations that give you a bit of context. But the goal then is, of course, to show you how you can engage your stakeholders in your projects thanks to the MAMCA methodology. So my name is Philippe Lebeau. I'm working in the MOBI research group, which is a research group of over 100 researchers based in the VUB, in the Vrije Universiteit Brussels. The goal of our research group is to support and study the transition towards sustainable mobility and logistics. And that's in that context that we have seen that in order to be able to fulfill that mission, in order to be able to shift towards more sustainable practices, it's important to get the support of the different key stakeholders when implementing new sustainable solutions. And there, the MAMCA is really helping us in our different research projects. So that's who we are. You can see that we are several here today to give you an overview of what the MAMCA methodology is. There will be especially Shari and River who will present you the MAMCA methodology and the MAMCA software, and then I will animate a workshop at the end. You can see also that you have Geert that is with us. He will be active, especially in the Q&A chat. So if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the Q&A session, in the Q&A chat. Unfortunately, we couldn't have with us Katy Macharis, but she's the one who developed the MAMCA methodology and who is leading the MOBI research group. But if you have any specific question for her, we can always transfer that to her afterwards. So one more thing, this webinar is recorded, so that's for the record. I can switch to the agenda of the webinar. Then we are structured around the 3 steps of the golden circle. So first we are going to explain you why is it important to include stakeholders. This will be given by Shari. Then afterwards, it's River, or you can read Hee-Wong here in the presentation, but River is his nickname. He will be presenting how we can actually involve them, and he will be then there explaining especially the methodological aspects of the MAMCA. And then finally, we will focus especially on a workshop where I'm going to guide you through the MAMCA software. And this will take approximately 1 hour, so we should be finished in less than 2 hours. So if you want to join this workshop, then please send now an email to philippe.lebeau@vub.be, and I will be able then to invite you in the project, in the MAMCA project, so that you can take part of to the workshop. All right, so here is the team again. So you can see Katy Macharis, who was the founder, Philippe Lebeau. I'm especially managing the different users and the different accounts of the users of the MAMCA platform. Loic is helping us with the business development. Phoebe, who is also with us today, is helping us with the communication. She has been very active with us for the organization of this webinar. And then you can find back River and Shari, but we are much more, many more researchers active on the research of MAMCA, so not everyone is listed here. All right, so I can jump directly to Shari, and I'm going to give her the control. Like this, it should work.
Yes. Oh, perfect. Okay, good afternoon from Italy. I'm Shari. Maybe some of you already use the MAMCA software. Others may think it's just a cool name and don't know anything about MAMCA. So maybe let's start with the beginning. and tell you that MAMCA is an abbreviation for multi-actor, multi-criteria analysis. So in short, it's a tool, a methodology to do an analyze when you're faced with a problem or a challenge that has different potential solutions or outcomes, but where you're faced with different actors, stakeholders that want to have their say in it, and they all have their different interests in this project. So on the one hand, you have a lot of stakeholders with different views, and on the other hand, you have a lot of potential outcomes. And basically, what MAMCA tries to do is bring these together to find a good solution. The different MAMCA steps will be explained later by River, but basically what it does is bring all these interests together, visualize them, let stakeholders discuss among each other why they think their point of view is of importance and what is important for them, and then use the MAMCA tool also to see how every potential solution caters to each of these specific interests of all the stakeholders, and hopefully reach a consensus. So as I told you, there's a nice software tool developed that puts this whole methodology into a user-friendly device that everyone can use for different types of problems. So as I said, it can be used in a lot of types of cases. It was developed at the MOBI Center, and it's been used for a lot of mobility-centered problems in the past, but it can be used in a whole array of different fields, basically. So maybe I will give you some nice examples to show you what it can be used for. For example, as I told you, it can be used in different fields. Mobility-related fields, like, for example, local government can use it to decide how they can improve the cycling options in the city. It can be used in the field of urban planning, for example, to see or decide what reconversion is suited best for a formal industrial site, for example. At the moment, MOBI is also working on in the field of renewable energy, on a couple of projects that focus on local energy communities, but local companies can also use it in the field of energy, for example, to decide what investments should be made by them to be self-sustaining on renewable energy in the future, for example. Those are different fields in which it can be used. It can also be used on different scales for very simple projects or very complex projects. For example, something you can test out at home. If you want to do a company outing next year with your colleagues, you can use MAMCA to decide what will you do on your next company outing, for example. You have all the stakeholders, your different colleagues and employees. They all have their different interests, and there are a lot of solutions, a lot of potential options you can do. You just use MAMCA to see what you will do next year. That's a simple project, but it can also be used for more complex problems. For example, how to organize a more sustainable delivery system for city centers. That's a very broad aspect, but MAMCA is also perfectly well suited for that. As mentioned, it can be used by private users as well as governments, for example. A private company can use MAMCA to see what sustainable mobility solutions they can implement for their logistics, for example, or for their employees. And a government can use it to decide where to build a new tram line, to say something. And then last examples, the problems can be very small and local, or can be on a national or even international level. On a local level, again, an example that you can try out at home. What should we have for dinner this evening? You have the different stakeholders, namely your housemates. They have their different points of views and interests, and you have different dinner options. Use MAMCA to see what's for dinner this evening. Or on a national level, for example, government could use it to see what COVID-19 measures they could implement or could use to set up their exit strategy, for example, see what are the interests of everyone involved and what are the consequences of each of these measures for everyone. So a couple of basic examples. You see it's a very broad field of you can use it for. So basically the main goal of this MAMCA is reach a supported outcome that's also successful, because something that's supported by a lot of people that will have to use it has more chances of being successful. Hence, stakeholder engagement is the crucial element in this whole methodology. MAMCA, the tool, the software, can be used in a lot of different ways, actually. You can use it to check potential support if you already have a specific outcome that you would want to implement, but you want to test out what the different reactions would be of all the stakeholders. You can use MAMCA for that. You can also use MAMCA more as a sort of a survey tool to gain some knowledge on everyone's interests, on all the stakeholders' interests. A third way to use MAMCA is actually to create a mutual understanding, because within this whole MAMCA methodology, workshops are a very big part. And basically, the goal is to bring everyone together, to give everyone the time and the platform to tell the other stakeholders what their interests are, so that everyone understands where the other stakeholders come from and what their points of view are. So in that way, you create sort of empathy, and it will be easier in the long run to grow to a consensus, because everyone understands the other one's backgrounds. It can also be used as a decision-making tool. If you have the different options, which option should we choose? You use MAMCA to see what the implications are for the different stakeholders and make a final decision. It can be used as a participation tool. As I told you, these workshops are a great way of gaining the input of all the stakeholders, bringing them together and have them actively participating in the whole process, so they feel heard and they are more engaged in the whole process. Or you can even use MAMCA not only to come to a consensus by gaining information on all the different interests, but you can also ask the stakeholders to create different options and solutions and think about what other potential options there are, and do a whole co-creation process with them, in which you design the solutions with them and also make them discuss and grow to a consensus. So basically, what makes this whole MAMCA methodology and software so useful and quite unique also is that, first of all, it allows stakeholders to engage from the very beginning. So everyone's concerns are taken into account throughout the whole process, but by getting them on the same page already at the beginning of the project, the risks of resistance and delay further on in the projects are also diminished. So they feel heard throughout the whole project and are less inclined to cause some delays or troubles along the way. The software also allows to stimulate citizens' involvement. Because of these workshops, they create an understanding for each other's point of view throughout with these workshops, and that makes it easier to reach a consensus at the end of the line. It also gives you the opportunity to evaluate a lot of different outcomes on an objective way, by looking at all the priorities of the different stakeholders and make an objective decision based on the input of the stakeholders. A fourth element is that you can use the MAMCA tool to validate a certain solution before you actually implement it. You can test it out in the software what the different reactions of the different stakeholders will be before you actually implement it. And a last one we want to mention is the possibility of facilitating the upscaling and the transfer of certain mobility or other solutions that are created. So a lot of different useful things, I think, that MAMCA can offer. Okay, I will hand the floor to River now.
I don't have the control. Flip. I still don't have the control. Yeah. Okay. Try. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Hui Huang, and yeah, you can also call me River. I'm the PhD researcher at MOBI, as well as the developer of MAMCA software. My topic today is how can we involve stakeholders? This section will be divided into 3 parts. First, a MAMCA methodology will be presented. Then I will tell you how MAMCA works in the workshop. Finally, there will be the showcases of ongoing research projects applies MAMCA. So let's go to the topic. How can MAMCA involve stakeholders? Let's have a look at the traditional multi-criteria analysis structure. To solve the problem, decision makers will have a set of optional solutions, which we call alternatives. To evaluate the alternatives on a problem, a set of criteria is defined. The importance of different criteria will be compared. Then the decision maker or the project manager will evaluate these alternatives based on these criteria. Philip, there's nothing showing in the screen. Yeah, okay. Okay. And MAMCA, as an extension of traditional multi-criteria analysis, allows for the inclusion of multiple stakeholders. Who are stakeholders? Stakeholders are people who have an interest, financial or otherwise, in the consequence of any decision taking. In other words, they are the people who will affect or be affected by the result of the decision making. Here is the structure of the MAMCA. It is clear to see that there is an additional layer in contrast to multi-criteria analysis. Multiple stakeholders can use different criteria tree in MAMCA with their own preference. Here we can have a look at how MAMCA works. The stakeholder analysis is conducted right after defining alternatives. Stakeholders are identified and the criteria tree for each of them can be constructed. Then the stakeholders evaluate their own priorities and impact of solutions. It should be noticed that any multi-criteria decision-making method can be used for the evaluation, such as HP, PROMOTE, and SMART. This method gives each stakeholder group the liberty of having their own criteria, weights, and preference structure, and only at the end of the analysis, the different points of view are being confronted. MAMCA methodology can be perfectly applied in a workshop. By inviting all stakeholders together in a workshop, they can discuss their interest and preference. With help from the MAMCA software, it is then visualized how every potential solution caters to everyone's specific interest. And with the help of these visuals, a consensus can be discussed that is a good fit for everyone's interest. To simplify and fasten the workshop setting, in a MAMCA workshop, we follow the 5 steps. The following pictures are taken from an academic MAMCA workshop at a university. Step 1, discuss about alternatives. The problem situation is discussed, and the project manager can predefine the alternatives. And it is also possible for the stakeholders to propose new alternative scenarios. In step 2, each stakeholder group can define the criteria and the goals they think important. Starting from this step, people are asked to sit together by stakeholder group to discuss until the final step, so they won't face the conflicts from different groups during the evaluation. In step 3, stakeholder group needs to allocate weights to criteria. The weights are determined by the importance the stakeholders are attaching to their objective. Then the stakeholders will evaluate the impact of each alternative based on their criteria. At the final step, the result of MAMCA is illustrated. The MAMCA software provides a good visualization of the advantages and disadvantages of each alternative for each stakeholder group. A discussion to reach consensus and have more insights in the issue is possible. As Shari already said, MAMCA can be used in different ways. Here are our partners who applied MAMCA. MAMCA has been applied in various domains of application. For example, in the area of energy, transportation, logistics, mobility. Here are some of the ongoing projects which apply MAMCA as a stakeholder engagement approach. Renaissance Relates applies a MAMCA methodology to see the wants and the needs of the energy and consumers and their preference for different designs of energy communities. Within Renaissance, they use the software in Spain, the Netherlands, and Greece. Currently, they are preparing workshop in Poland and India. Space applies the MAMCA methodology to capture stakeholders' evaluation of autonomous vehicle scenarios in a public transport context. Within the space project, scenarios have been defined that integrate autonomous vehicles with the existing public transport network. MIMIC seeks the transnational cooperation to learn about solutions meeting different stakeholders' needs. With MAMCA, the 4 demonstration countries in MIMIC can show local variations in the composition of stakeholder group between Belgium, Norway, Sweden, and Australia. For Looper, the novel approach within the project is a link between the co-creation process and the participatory evaluation using MAMCA. The alternative solutions are co-designed by the citizens. The uniqueness of MAMCA lies in the multi-actor evaluation. As stakeholders learn to see how other stakeholders might have other goals and criteria. The MAMCA software is designed as a tool to understand and analyze the role and input of stakeholders in strategic process. Next section, Professor Lebeau will tell you more about the MAMCA software. Thanks for your listening.
Philippe, I think your microphone is not on.
All right, thank you, Shari. Is that better?
Yes, perfect.
Thank you. All right, so coming back then to the presentation. So I have around 10 people attending the MAMCA workshop, so that's perfect. That's going to be also easy for going through the tool. As we are a good size, I will propose to switch out from the live event of Microsoft Teams. I will now send you an invitation for a meeting format because it will allow to have better interaction than through this webinar, where attendees cannot share their microphone. In the same time, you have all received you have all received normally an invitation from the MAMCA platform. So I've replied to you also back by email. Still, if you have joined the webinar a bit later than this first slide, you can still send me a message here at philippe.lebeau@vub.be, and then you can I can include you in the MAMCA invitations. All right, so I'm sending you an invitation now. I'm going to close the webinar. Thanks already to Shari and River. We will share the recording later on. Bye bye. See you in a minute for the others.